People aren't investigative enough.
Got it.
To read about the subject of contaminants in water. And I also want to say there aren't great mineral profiles in any tap water. It uniquely causes miscarriages in women. And she turned white. My backstory is I was educated as an aeronautical and astronautical engineer.
Wow.
And this was like during the Vietnam War, right in the middle of the whole thing of my PhD program. Because if you don't have a PhD in aeronautics and astronautics, you might as well just go sweep the street. Okay. So the whole class was drafted, and I wasn't drafted because my thesis happened to be on a top secret military subject, like how to hide a warhead, things like that. So they shipped me off to Anaheim, California. I was sad and I was excited at the same time. California girls, Beach Boys, I mean, you name it. That was, wow. I was going to have a new life. And that part lasted. I was assigned to the Minuteman missile. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's the main missile still to this day of America, meaning like ICBM type missile.
Whoa.
And it was crashing all the time. And one of my assignments was, you got to help figure out why this missile's crashing, because the Air Force gets really PO'd when the missiles crash. Okay.
I can imagine.
So I went through that for about 5 years and then got bored. My brother was actually working in the intelligence community at the same time, and interesting, in the same building, in a secret little place. And so we would have lunch together occasionally. He said, "Are you getting bored?" "I'm getting bored." "Are you getting bored?" "Yeah, I'm getting bored. We got to do something new." I mean, we're both scientists, and my brother has like 5 degrees, you know. And so we said, let's figure out what we want to do. And we ran into, kind of spontaneously and accidentally, into an emerging technology called membrane separation. Membrane separation involves a word most of your listeners probably have heard of called reverse osmosis. It's one of the subcategories. And what's unique about it and why it got the world's attention is because it can separate membrane. People don't know what a membrane is, but for now, think about a piece of saran wrap, okay? A membrane that separates. If you push water up against the membrane, it separates everything from water. Only water goes through. The other stuff stays on the surface.
Wow.
I mean, it's like a real well. But it really got everybody's attention in the world because here was the way, finally, that you could cheaply desalinate seawater to make fresh water. I mean, the dream of the world, because you have all this seawater, right? And you don't have enough fresh water, and now you can get it. And, you know, many, many, many cities and countries use giant reverse osmosis systems, you know, that make hundreds of millions of gallons a day. I think the largest one is in Israel. Makes like, 2/3 of its water.
Wow.
And sucks the water from the Mediterranean, and bingo. And I've done some work at that plant. And interestingly, Carlsbad, California, just finished recently opening its new 60 million gallon a day reverse osmosis system right there on the coast as you're driving down the 5 freeway. And it's off to the right on the ocean. And it just, they were running out of water down there. And now they've supplemented it with desalinated seawater. So it was like the government threw money at it, and it didn't even need independent corporations, because they just hired anybody and everybody to make this science work. My brother and I took a different angle because everybody was so focused on ocean desalination. We said, look, there's all these other uses for this water. Like one was making bottled drinking water, making water as good as the best spring could offer. And so today, now 50 years later, probably 98% of all the bottled water in the world is made by reverse osmosis. Okay. And there's still natural spring waters in Perrier and Fiji, et cetera, but the masses, most of it's RO, reverse osmosis water.
Wow. And when you purify water using reverse osmosis technology, as you mentioned, you're basically pushing the water through and you're leaving everything else that was in that water other than the H2O behind, right?
And what happens to that stuff?
What happens to that stuff?
That's a good question. I'm glad you got to it before I did. So that stuff that stays behind, and maybe it's easiest if I show you actually what happens.
Yeah.
So here's an actual membrane that does it.
Wow.
You put this in a case, and you put the bad water in one end, and out the other end comes the pure water, and yet out another side comes a concentrated stream of the impurities.
This looks like one of the tubes that I've got an AquaTrue reverse osmosis purifier.
Sure, that's in that. Almost this identical size is in one of the AquaTrues.
Wow.
But almost nobody ever gets to see how that works. So I said it was kind of like a piece of saran wrap, which is a stretch. So if we take this blue tape off and this little gizmo off, it kind of looks like this.
Wow.
Okay.
Is that literally what's inside here?
Literally.
Wow. It's very.
So that's the membrane.
It's so rigid.
Yeah. Well, what makes this rigid? This is, you see this little area here that looks a little different than the center?
Yeah.
This is just a special adhesive that holds these two sheets together.
Got it.
Making a bag. Okay. You see it's sealed on this end too.
Yeah.
So I just call this a bag that's of reverse osmosis membrane rolled up on a stick. Okay, so how this is really used, and it would work just like this.
Well, okay, and by the way, you guys can tune in and watch this on YouTube so you can actually see what Robert is holding up. But this doesn't look porous at all. You're telling me that you can actually push water through this?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Now, you just have to have some amount of pressure, not a lot.
Not a lot.
And the amount of pressure that you need is, let's say, dependent upon how much impurities there are.
Got it.
So at the impurities you might find like here in your city, or around most of the United States, the tap water in New York, the tap water in Washington, you only need like 40 to 50 PSI, which every household has at least that. Okay? So that will work. But if you have seawater, let's say we say, Robert, can we work this, go down the beach and see how it does? We could use the same membrane, but we'd have to use 750 PSI.
A lot more pressure.
A lot more pressure because you got so much salt in that water.
Got it.
So anyway, here's kind of, if you would like hold that end down.
Okay.
So the water is introduced into this end, which is equivalent to running this way. Okay? This is that end when it's rolled up. So the water is flowing along the whole surface like this. The pure water, or the water that this allows through, is going through this membrane into a porous thin sheet between these two surfaces that's sandwiched. This is one side of, this is one whole membrane. This is a whole nother membrane.
Wow.
That have been glued together to make a bag. Remember bag on the stick?
Yeah.
So the impurities, so the pure water's going through, impurities left behind, but the next little stream of water is removing the impurities and we're carrying them away. So there's always some water, call it wastewater, rinse water, that you need to carry away the impurities.
And that's why my purifier always leaves some water over in the tank.
Precisely.
Yeah. And so in that water you have the impurities.
That's where the impurities are.
Got it.
And if you never changed, if you never dumped it,
Yeah.
they would just and after a week we would if we took this membrane out and unrolled it,
Mhm.
it would be like just a crust of every impurity that was in
Wow.
the tap water.
So how does the water, like directionally, how does the water traverse this membrane? It goes through it, or or it goes up
through
it?
the center.
Through
No,
the center.
it's passing parallel,
Okay.
but because of the pressure, some is soaking through this membrane side and also soaking through this membrane side
Wow.
into a channel that's sandwiched between these two.
That's so cool.
And that sandwich is like, I don't know. It's like a thin piece of gauze or something. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like a cloth thing. And it's then once that goes through, it's working its way up because more water's coming through until it gets to this tube.
Wow.
And then it comes out of that tube. That's the water that goes
That's so cool.
to your aqua trail.
That's so cool to see this, like,
I mean, hardly anybody has ever seen this.
no, I
you
know it's amazing. Well, now people have thousands and thousands
I
of people
know.
have. Very cool.
So-
Now, so with reverse osmosis water purification, though, you're basically, I mean, you're purifying the water, but in the most thorough way,
Right.
which is not, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. When we think of water, we think of H2O, right? But the water that you get from your faucet or the water that you get from a spring, that's a soup of compounds. That's not just H2O.
Right.
Are you losing anything good, by running water through these membranes?
Man, you are nailing all the great questions, okay? And you're not even a water scientist, but you're all asking the key questions. That's a magnet. People think, oh my God, am I taking the minerals out? Okay. People, and that's why I'm so excited to talk about electrolytes, because you brought that up. And the tap waters of the world, everyone has a different signature of, let's say, nutrients that are mostly minerals and trace elements, and none are impressive. There may be a few springs, okay, that have very special earth characteristics and they have a good profile. But the holy grail of minerals and trace elements for all life happens to be the periodic table of the elements. And I have a chart of the periodic table of the elements I'm going to force you to look at.
Oh man, bringing me back.
Sorry. So here, the periodic table contains the 92 natural elements.
Okay.
And these 92 things make up everything in the universe. There's nothing that isn't made of these 92 things.
Right. I get that.
Okay. And it's an astounding thing I'm reminded of, that just everything, the furthest star, the furthest comet, the thing deepest in the earth, there's nothing nothing. It's all this. Okay.
Right.
A very clever design by God, I think.
Right. It's also amazing to consider that the food that nourishes us, made of elements on the periodic table, food that can, or compounds that poison us and can kill us, made of compounds on the periodic table. So,
and combinations of them.
And combinations. Yeah.
So, life evolved, plants and animals. And it's really probably my most famous presentation is evolution, how it occurred, et cetera, et cetera. And, not everybody accepts evolution. Some people believe it was just Adam and Eve kind of experience. But I'm a big believer in evolution. I wasn't at one point, but I am now. And after really getting into the science. And life evolved in the ocean. I mean, it not only started in what we call the primordial ocean, but it's not a stretch. Why would life begin in the ocean? Because it had everything. If you could make all the mistakes, you had all the Legos to play with, the entire periodic table. And when I ask doctors, Max, one of the questions I ask doctors, they said, Rob, you're always talking about the ocean. I said, well, let me ask you guys, what is the ocean? Oh, salty and this and burns your eyes or whatever. But I said, not in 16 years, not one doctor has ever answered the question correctly in my terms. The ocean is the only aqueous solution of the entire periodic table of the elements in the known universe. Like, holy mackerel. That's a big deal. It contains every one of these. So it contains every one in unique proportions. It's our ocean on Earth. So each one has a separate solubility. And so the ocean all over the place, it's all the same. And life just said, this is what I'm given. It's everything that exists, and let's go for it. So then I asked them, how long did life stay in the ocean before it left the ocean? Because at one point, the Earth was completely covered with an ocean. That's kind of why it was called the Blue Planet. But I'd say probably most guys go 10 million years, 50 million years. No, life remained in the ocean over 2 billion years before leaving. And I say, do you have any idea the influence on every species of life, every plant, every animal, every insect, every bird, that being and evolving in the ocean for 2 billion years? I mean, do you think you get used to the ocean in 2 billion years? Yeah, I'd say it's pretty valuable to you. And the ocean is like the ultimate regulatory part of the system. Once life left the ocean, it's like, it must have been incredibly different not to have the oceanic environment, which regulated your temperature just right and just did all the right thing. Food, oh yeah, I'll just open my mouth and the food will
swim by. Yeah,
exactly. So the ocean made it easy, but the guy who knew more about the ocean and life than anybody, René Canton, that was a revolutionary biologist in the late 1800s and 1900s, early 1900s. He said the only way, this is like one of the most profound biological statements I've ever heard. The only way life could leave the ocean was to take the ocean with it. And we did. So if you do an analysis of your blood plasma, okay? And you know blood plasma has electrolytes in it. And let's say you were early man and you really had all those elements in it, okay? Because in 100 million years ago, the plants had actually all of the minerals and trace elements in it. Solid-wise, there's about 75 plus minerals and trace elements that can be in plants and animals and so on. But if you were to take plants nowadays, if we were to go over to Whole Foods and buy the best organic food, we'd be hard-pressed to find more than 15 in there.
They're depleted.
They are depleted. And even in unless you got food from like a Rudolf Steiner level biodynamic garden where they actually use sea solids, okay, to supply the periodic table, you're just not getting them. And I think it's the single most significant contributor to the decline of human health ever.
The fact that the mineral content of our plants have become essentially diluted.
And food, I mean, it would reflect, obviously, that if you ate steak, the steak is coming from the plant too.
Yeah.
Right? And the plant is coming from the soil, but it's just depleted in the soil from, modern farming, from the replacement of real organic fertilizer with nitrogen chemistry. And then pesticides came in and that changed it all. There's a guy that your audience should really embrace. His name is Professor August Dunning, okay, Dunning. And he has some of the most revealing, eye-opening presentations. Now, he's a brainiac and a famous professor at Caltech. I'm not sure he is right now, but he made his name there. And he's an astrophysicist. Doesn't have anything to do with health and nutrition, etc. And also one of the designers of the International Space Station, and somebody I relate to because of my rocket
Your
science
background.
stuff. And so he just had an epiphany, probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. And he goes, hey, this is just striking me. He's read a few things like, God, we don't get the periodic table anymore. And we evolved in the sea, and the sea gave it to us, but then we don't get it again. And something's wrong. So he had his, probably his graduate students, would you go back to 1900, get all the data, guys? I want you to plot the level of minerals that were measured in produce.
Yeah.
I want you to plot it from 1900 to 2020. And then I want you to plot the incidence of chronic disease in the world from that same period.
I mean, so much has changed.
Okay.
There's so many variables have changed, but you're right. Have you heard of this theory that it's not just the ravaging of our soil, but it's the increased concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere that's causing plants to grow faster, and so they're storing more starch, sugar. Their protein content has become diluted. Of course, their mineral content.
I would say, nothing is as foundational as the minerals and trace elements, because they are involved in all the things you just said. And so is the next topic of deuterium. Major effect is majorly affected by what you just said.
Well, I want to close the loop on electrolytes. So because we're talking about reverse osmosis purifiers, and I use one. So when you run the water through it, you're blanching it, or
you're removing all the minerals and trace elements.
Right. And you're saying, are you saying that that's of no consequence?
No, it's great. It has a consequence.
Okay.
But there is no way that that my following and your following would accept the contaminants that are in the water.
Can you just paint that picture for my audience?
Contaminants?
Yeah. Like what is in tap water these days in the United States?
Like any one of 10 heavy metals. I mean, here's the two the best: lead, arsenic. Throw in some fluoride. I mean, you don't want any of that stuff, right?
No.
So there's 3 right there. Then we have synthetic organic chemicals. All the pesticides and herbicides. You think they get in the water? Everyone. Okay. Yeah. You can find glyphosate in every tap water in America. Oh, wait, what happens to all that petroleum that our cars are dripping on the road, and then the rain comes? Those are called volatile organic chemicals. What about those? Well, they're all in the tap water too. Okay. Oh my God. We disinfect the water with a couple of chemicals. Chlorine, chloramines, right? But what do? Well, about 20 years ago, they said, chlorine, Clorox is pretty harmless. But 20 years ago, they go, holy mackerel, that chlorine is reacting with natural organic matter like molecules of leaves and stuff. And it's forming a whole new chemical group called trihalomethanes.
Wow.
They're called disinfection byproducts. They're carcinogenic. Okay. They cause miscarriages in women, young women having babies. And to accentuate that, there was a show, I think it was in Florida that I was at. A woman came to me and said, you're the water guy, and I want to get something for my house. I'd like to filter all the water. And I said, okay, where do you live? She said, Jacksonville, Florida. I said, well, she goes, what should I get? I go, no. It's like asking what you should get for water filtration. It's like going to a doctor, walking in his office and saying, can you write me a prescription? Well, he doesn't know what's wrong with you.
Right.
So I said, you have to know what's in the water. This is like the missing link of the water business. And I said, let's look it up. Jacksonville, Florida, there's a EPA website that gives you all this stuff in it. And I'm looking at it and going, it's really not that bad. I don't see any major heavy metals. It looks like the pesticides and things are within. And then I stop and I go, holy mackerel. I said, I'm looking at trihalomethanes. And to be honest with you, you have, except for Rio de Janeiro, you have the highest level of trihalomethanes I've ever seen reported in the United States. And in fact, it says you should have received last year in 2019 5 letters, like notices. Hey, we've exceeded, we can't do anything about it. We've exceeded the trihalomethane level because of the natural circumstances, right? You had to put chlorine in the water, but they had a lot of organics. And then she goes, what's wrong with that? I said, well, for one thing, the trihalomethanes are carcinogens. So if you have this in your whole life, it's going to be one of the contributors. And I said, probably the worst thing about it that it uniquely causes miscarriages in women. And she turned white. And she goes, are you serious? And I go, why are you reacting like? She goes, since I've lived in that house, I've had 5 miscarriages in a row.
Wow.
And imagine what that changed her life by not knowing that one little piece of information.
Fascinating. And so these compounds have been detected at the point of consumption?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a few chemicals.
Yeah.
Like chlorine itself that will degrade.
Yeah. So you're saying like chlorine, just to kind of just reiterate for the audience, because I think it's an interesting point. So chlorine is something that like at the concentration that it's found in tap water might not be that harmful, but what they don't test is the interaction that chlorine.
Well, they do test it.
They do.
They just don't. It's just that people aren't investigative enough.
Got it.
To read about the subject of contaminants in water.
But it reminds me of that study that came out that found that these chemical sunblocks like the oxybenzones and the avobenzones, like you put them on your skin and they have one effect, and we know that they're endocrine disrupting compounds and the like, but that they become something else entirely in the presence of sun combined with pool water, the chlorine in pool water. They become some other kind of liver toxic or kidney toxic compound.
I'm trying to think of...
That came out a few years ago.
I think it could be reacting not with chlorine, but with chloramines. Chloramines are an alternative to chlorine that mix ammonia with chlorine.
Wow.
Okay. And we won't go into why that is, but you also brought, another point, and you said endocrine disrupting chemicals.
Yeah. So
those are another category. Well, where the hell where do they come from in water? Well, we live, you and I are here 50 miles from Orange County, right? Orange County has the largest, because I did research there, has the largest plant. I'm not sure it's still in the world, but it's certainly one of the largest plants that recycles the sewage water of Orange County and puts it back in the water table. Okay. And it's actually was the name of my company before they had it. It's called Water Factory 21. It's right off the 405 freeway on Euclid.
Wow.
So this plant takes the water from the sewage plant there, which is a high-tech sewage plant, and it does most of the gross impurity removing. But then they take that water, okay, and they run it through a lot of these. And it makes the water, if you were to test it chemically, it would be as good as the original tap water.
Wow.
Because these things are that good. But still, you can still find... There are other factors, but you can still find endocrine disrupting things, pharmaceuticals in the water that people put in, whatever, throw down the toilet and so on. It still can be measured. And so, that's another thing when you were asking, well, what's in the water? Well, there's that. And then there's a lot more. But the takeaway is, well, Robert, okay, so it kind of makes sense to remove everything, because if you remove everything, it's the only way to get rid of all the stuff that we talked about.
Yeah, you're saying that the benefits of removing all the crap outweigh the
loss of minerals. And I also want to say there aren't great mineral profiles in in any tap water.
Interesting.
I mean, maybe 1 out of 1,000.
Interesting.
And like, who cares?
Yeah.
So a question that's worth answering for your public is, well, what technologies can remove all of those categories Robert talked about? Okay. You know, the heavy metals, the SLCs, VOCs, there's only really 2. One is distillation plus activated carbon. This combination is the key. And the other is reverse osmosis plus activated carbon, the Aquacho. Okay? And it does a great job. Now, when you get that water, what should you do with it? Well, you should remineralize it. And what's great is that you should always use water as an opportunity to remineralize. Okay? And because it's the best delivery system. So take advantage of it. I tell, because of the ocean connection, this is my favorite remineralizer. This is a product, you know, as much as it's crazy to think this came out in 1897, but it did. And it also saved my life in 2004.
It came out in 1890. What? You mean the
that, just like that. 1897, this came out as a medicine.
I mean, the liquid, you're saying, because this is packaged beautifully. I'm
It's
not sure we have the
beautifully, and I will tell you, I actually have a package from maybe the 20s, and it's not quite that pretty.
Yeah,
but it's pretty.
This is beautiful. So it's a glass vial, and so this has electrolytes in it. I like that it's glass because actually
this has the whole periodic table in it. Okay.
Wow. But there's some bad stuff in the periodic table. There's lead in the periodic table.
No,
right?
But it's all, you know, everything can be toxic and everything can be safe.
Yeah.
So it's all about the levels.
The dose.
But the fact is, because life evolved in this for 2 billion years, okay?
Yeah.
There was, that's what developed what's toxic and what isn't. Are you following me?
Yeah.
In other words, the ocean just naturally hardly has any detectable lead in it.
Interesting. Right?
But if it did,
yeah,
life would have just figured it out in 2 billion years.
Of course.
And there would be no lead problem for current humanity. That's all.
Yeah.
Evolution and the minerals and the ocean are so incredible a story. But this is what I tell people to add back to their water. In fact, I tell them, if you're buying the best bottled water from Mountain Valley or something, can I tell you what my recommendation is? Because Mountain Valley maybe has 15 elements in it.
Throw a vial of this in?
Throw a vial of this in, yes.
I'm super glad that this is in glass, because I used to buy a trace mineral compound from Amazon that came in a plastic bottle, and so I would run
trace minerals research, I'm sure.
Yeah, so I would run the water through my RO purifier, and then I would put these minerals. I would throw them back in a non-specific way. I would just like do a squirt into the clean tank. But then I was like, I'm putting this compound, this liquid that I don't exactly know what's in it. You know, I'm taking their word for it, but it's in a plastic bottle. Who knows, you know, like what this mineral rich,
a blue plastic bottle.
Yeah, solution has been able to leach from the plastic. You know, am I getting like BPA? You know, am I putting BPA back in my water?
I mean, I think you're justified in thinking it, but not justified in concluding it. Because the amount of BPA that you could get, even if that plastic had BPA in it, would be, and this is one of the most common questions, it was probably something like that.
Yeah, it was that. It's that brand. Yeah. So you're saying don't worry about the...
Well, yeah, I'm not saying about the plastic, but I'm not a fan of this because it comes from the inland sea, which is the Great Salt Lake. And all you have to do is, if you go on the internet, this lake has pollution problems that are among the greatest in the world.
Yeah, so this is what I used to use.
Yeah.
But I mean, who knows how these bottles have been stored prior to it landing at my doorstep, you know? But
you know what? In the house you're in, in the car you drive around in the clothes you wear, et cetera, the contribution of this, let's say, plasticizer BPA, BPS, whatever. There's hundreds of them. The contribution of this with water sitting in it compared to the fact you're in a sea of it and I'm in a sea of it, it wouldn't show up on the list as a contributor. And I try to tell people that. I said, listen, it is great to have water in glass bottles. I mean, it feels better and everything is right about it. But the amount, even from a plastic bottle, is so tiny compared to the tomb of that you're in when you're driving your car, because your car is completely plastic.
The exposome. Have you heard that the term the exposome?
No.
The exposome is just the sum total of exposures.
I like that.
Of like toxic exposures.
I like it.
That's
a great word.
That a person is exposed to. So you're saying that it's negligible.
It is negligible. And you know what? One of the things that has become popular are what? Stainless steel bottles, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I have not met one person who thinks, you know what, that bottle is probably made, because 99.9% of them are made there in China. Okay. I said, if you've ever gone into a plant, first of all, they're not making it from new stainless steel. They are taking the world's scrap metals, which are pouring into their harbors, shiploads full, and they're melting it down, and they get the stainless steel and separate it out. But that's got heavy metals like at a serious level.
Wow.
Okay, and I'm not saying everyone.
Yeah.
I think there's some who have like surgical stainless and so on. But if you just buy right off the street this typical stainless steel bottle and put water in it or some other beverage that may be acidic, like fruit juice, okay, you could be dragging out more heavy metals than if you just drank your tap water continually.
That's a good point. I mean, you definitely want to scrub the shit out of any,
Yeah, and scrubbing doesn't do it because the heavy metals aren't on the surface. I mean, they are, but they're throughout the metal.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Super interesting. So some people have said that, I guess there's some myth, or I don't know if it's a myth, but there's this idea floating around that if you are drinking water as pure as you get from a reverse osmosis purifier, that it somehow doesn't absorb, that it doesn't hydrate you. Is that BS?
It's not BS, but it's not like a grand difference.
Okay.
For some people, it could make a difference.
And why would that be? Is it just because of
No, because of the osmotic effects of electrolytes in the water, allowing it to create the same kind of pressure, so to speak, that we talked about regarding this membrane. This membrane is not very unlike the membrane that surrounds each cell. Okay? It responds to the same thing. Ions go in, ions go out. It's affected by the level of those ions. Remember I said that, hey, if we have seawater for this, we have to jack up
a lot more pressure.
Right. So the cell is like going through the same thing. If you drink a lot of salt, you're going to dehydrate because it's going the wrong way. So, but it's the electrolytes you put in the water. The electrolytes are the 92 elements, or not 92 because some are gases, but let's say 70 plus elements are electrolytes.
Amazing.
Okay. And they're in the soil and they should be in our food, but they aren't. So this is the remineralizer and the retrace mineralizer.
So I would think that water that's more pure is going to have an easier time, right? Because less pressure.
It's just not true.
It's not.
The secret is it's the key in
lock
scenario that the presence of electrolytes enhance the intracellular uptake.
Got it.
Of water.
Got it. So don't drink water without remineralizing
right.
it.
And it's not that you're going to like dehydrate. I mean, the body, remember, when the water gets mixed in through the digestive tract, there's a lot of
there's minerals already in there.
There's already minerals in there, but only if you've remineralized from your food. You see, it all goes back like to the food and so on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a critical part that we've lost sight of because maybe it's too boring. But even in 1925, it could have been 1934, there was a famous letter read in Congress. Some passionate doctor said, he knew a congressman and said, look, I'm so passionate about this. I'd like this letter read in Congress. And he sounded the alarm, just like August Dunning, on the importance of having minerals back in the soil so they would be in the food in 1925 or 34, one of those years. And how right he was, but you know what? Nobody listened to him. Nobody changed anything. The chemical companies came in and says, oh no, we got this fake fertilizer. This will work and this will work. And the plant will even grow bigger. Yeah. Without any minerals and trace elements in it.
Wow. I love this. You're so full of knowledge. This is incredible. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about deuterium, which is
Cool.
a concept that you're also very passionate about. And I've heard you on other people's podcasts talking about this, and I know nothing about it. So yeah,
Cool.
Deuterium.
Okay. So deuterium, everybody knows what hydrogen is. Okay. It's the first and lightest element on the periodic table. But what most people have no idea is that there's 3 kinds of hydrogen. Like, holy mackerel. And most people were 3 kinds.
They didn't teach me that.
Yeah. And they didn't.
In my high school,
in fact,
college chemistry.
Most
classes.
of the elements have more than one version. Okay. And well, what changes in those versions? It's really only one thing: the number of neutrons in the nucleus of the atom of that element. Okay. The number of neutrons.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the way to do it, because if you start playing with charges, you really make a big impact on an atom. But if you just add a dumb neutral particle, all you add is mass. Okay. The neutron is the same mass as a proton, blah, blah, blah. So you're just adding some mass.
We were taught that neutrons were unimportant. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but
well, okay, I'm not sure I could agree with unimportant.
I'm not saying that they are, but I feel like they were sort of overlooked. Like we just, we focused on electrons.
But they make nuclear reactions happen. Like fission can't occur without neutrons, and without neutrons and the control of neutrons, you can't have a reactor. You never could have made an atomic bomb. Not that that's a good thing, but neutrons are important. Okay,
amazing.
Not maybe as important as protons and electrons, but we can debate that later. But the point is, most of the elements have various versions, and they're called isotopes. Everybody's heard of isotopes. Maybe they don't know what they are. They're just the different versions of a given element. And we use those. They have unique little characteristics. Maybe they're good for medicine. Everybody knows, oh, there's an isotope thing you have to take, and then we scan you, and so they're used for these kinds of purposes. But what is unique about the 3 isotopes of hydrogen are referred to in science as, let's call regular hydrogen, the one we thought was the only one. It's the lightest of the 3, and it's called by scientists protium. Then somewhere in the Big Bang, okay, a neutron got cozy with the proton, and then attracted an electron, and it made a heavier form of hydrogen called deuterium. So deuterium is a proton, a neutron, and an electron. And we're just gonna say there is a third and even heavier form that's so rare, nobody bothers talking about it, called tritium. And it is slightly radioactive. And it has 2 neutrons and a proton. Okay, that's it. And there's so little left, bingo. But what deuterium was discovered, hydrogen was discovered, I should know this, probably in the 1700s, okay? But deuterium wasn't discovered until 1931, okay? And some smart guys were looking at like spectrographic, spectral bands and when they analyze things, and they go, there's something else in that hydrogen stuff, okay? And it wasn't until a guy goes, hey, there's something with an extra neutron. But what that deuterium is, what's dramatic and what makes this whole subject of deuterium depletion important is that deuterium is twice as heavy as protium. the light hydrogen. So protium is light hydrogen, deuterium is heavy hydrogen, and it's twice as heavy. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to shock my audience into it when I say, if it's like, just regular public, I go, hey, I want you to remember this so much that I'm going to say, hey, if you woke up tomorrow morning and you were 10% heavier, 10 pounds heavier, say, you'd be pretty PO'd, okay? But if you woke up twice as heavy tomorrow morning, we're talking a whole nother ball game.
Yeah.
Okay? And they remember this because it is important. This changes everything. So that deuterium acts quite differently than the regular light hydrogen. So the deuterium, that hydrogen, all of the kinds of hydrogen make water molecules when they combine with oxygen. In fact, one of the rules of chemistry is the isotopes can just come and go and exchange for each other. A deuterium can replace the protium, a protium can replace tritium, et cetera, et cetera. So they're interchangeable. But even though you interchange them, it doesn't mean they act the same.
Got it. Interesting.
So where did the deuterium come from? It was made during the Big Bang, just like all the other stuff. How did it get on Earth? There's every kind of answer has been suggested from. It was brought here by comets, ETs. It's another added liability from ETs. Anything has gone, but we know it hasn't always been the same. And it's hard to determine it from all the geophysical analysis and research, but we do know because water molecules that are made with deuterium, and here's the water molecule. So if we want to have the simplest water molecule that we've always and only thought existed, H2O, 2 protiums and 1 oxygen, that's the lightest water molecule, right? Because it's got just the lightest hydrogen and oxygen's the same.
Yeah.
But if one of those hydrogen is replaced by a deuterium, we kind of refer to that in the language of this science, HDO.
HDO.
Yeah. A protium, a deuterium, even though we're using the H, but it's just the way it happened.
Yeah.
HDO. So there's H2O.
Yeah.
HDO, and we even can make a little bit in nature D2O. There's no light hydrogen. It's just 2 deuterium. Very little of that, so we're not even going to think about it. So the big deal is H2O, light water, and HDO, we call it heavy water. So when that guy discovered deuterium in 1931, you know what the brainiacs of physics and so on thought when he announced it? Well,
Tell
no,
me.
you don't.
I don't.
People like Einstein and Heisenberg in Germany, the great quantum physicists and blah, blah, blah. You know what they thought? Holy mackerel. We can make something that we've always dreamed of, a nuclear reactor. Okay? And with the nuclear, they knew if we can make and control fission by using this deuterium, I mean, well, the dream originally was we're going to make electricity for nothing, right? I mean, it didn't maybe work out that way because of the toxicity and stuff of radiation. But, I mean, they were dreaming hard, a nuclear reactor. Heisenberg, he had another more advanced thought. And he told Hitler, who was his lord and master, he said, hey, if we can make, and he made the first reactor, if we can make a reactor, I can make you a bomb as big as a pineapple that will take out London. Well, that was all hands on deck. We are making heavy water, okay? And I think you will be fascinated if you watch a Netflix drama. It's superb in acting, cinematography, direction, everything. It's called The Heavy Water War.
Ooh.
Okay? I mean, I promise you. All right?
It's a doc, or what is it? Is it a documentary?
More like a real movie.
A real movie.
Okay? Yeah. Not a documentary. It's a real movie. I mean, the top Norwegian actors, English actors, American actors, and it's about the story of the race to who could make enough deuterium heavy water.
I feel like they kind of talked about it a little bit in that wonderful HBO miniseries Chernobyl. Like,
oh, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I saw it, and it was
spectacular.
Yeah, it was spectacular, and they did mention deuterium for sure, but in this thing it was the race, and by the skin of our teeth, and a lot of loss of lives to stop Germany from making it, who had a head start, because there actually was in Norway a plant that made for research purposes heavy water. And of course, within 3 days of Heisenberg saying I can make an atomic bomb, they of course took it over. Okay. But America won the war and made the atomic bomb, and the rest is, we know.
Yeah.
So, okay. So everybody was just excited about nuclear energy, deuterium, okay, fission, all these aspects of that involve deuterium. Russia wasn't in on the game, okay? They just flat out lost that war, even though they proceeded to make an atomic bomb and all that stuff. But Russian scientists are the smartest that I know on the planet, okay? I mean, they're really a separate breed because their education system for science is beyond exceptional. And so those guys started to look at deuterium differently, like, okay, all these guys are making bombs and reactors and so on, but what does it do like to us? And how much deuterium is in water? Okay. So everybody should know that in a liter of water, almost, and I'll tell you the exceptions, all water on Earth, seawater, fresh water, mountain valley water, Fiji water, you name it, there's about 6 drops of deuterium water in every liter of water. The rest is light water. Are you with me? And a lot of people just go, oh, is that all? Okay. See you later. Let's go make some nuclear reactors. Okay. So it didn't get a lot of attention, but the Russians were just like such researchers. And they said, well, look, what if we like collect those 6 drops and just get pure deuterium water? Okay. Like 100%. Well, you don't even need 100%, but let's say instead of 6 drops, there's 20,000 drops in a liter. 6 drops is like less than half a percent.
Yeah.
But what if we had 25% of the drops be deuterium water? What kind of feed? What would you do if you were a researcher? You're going to put it on seeds? You're going to put it on plants? You're going to give it to a rat, a mouse, and a chimpanzee, for starters. Okay. Well, you know, in like 5 days, nothing lived. Okay.
Interesting.
What? I mean, that's like a what for me. I'd have been like, did we do something wrong? Because this stuff tastes like water.
Yeah, I mean, it's water.
I mean, it's water. Okay. And so it was like, holy mackerel, what are the thresholds of these things? Like, this is a contaminant in water. Like, water is a horrible contaminant in water, right? Just because of the deuterium.
That's a mind trip.
Hey, believe me, it was late in my career that I realized this. This is like maybe 12 years ago that I got into this. I'm going, what the heck? I spent my whole life removing contaminants from water. And I'm realizing that the contaminant I really should have focused on is the water itself.
So a reverse osmosis purifier can't get rid of deuterium.
Not even a millionth of a drop, not even one molecule, okay?
Man.
Distillation can't do it. Nothing can do it, okay? So you have to use a process. But here's what I want you to know, another shocker. If we sat here and I had this as pure deuterium water, okay? Deuterium. I mean, not light water, not deuterium depleted, but it was all deuterium water, HDO molecules, okay?
Yeah.
And I served it up to both of us. I grabbed the wrong bottle. You and I would not have even made it to the membrane because we would have been dead, face flat on this table we're both sitting at.
It's that toxic.
It is that toxic.
Wow.
And the only indicator of water really that we can make and discern easily is that if we took this deuterium rich water and we made ice cubes out of it, they would sink to the bottom.
Interesting.
And not float on the top. So
wow.
Think about that for the rest of your life, especially with estranged wives or things like that. Okay. I mean, it's the ultimate James Bond kind of thing.
So every liter of water generally that people will typically have access to has 6 drops of deuterium of HDO.
Of HDO.
And this stuff is
catch on very fast.
Yeah, and this stuff is really toxic in high amounts. But how dangerous are these? I mean, these 6 drops.
Well, do you know what?
Like, there's no.
I will now tell you that it's toxic in any amount, and it's just like other toxins. It just takes longer.
Interesting.
Okay. I mean, if you had, in the standards that government set for impurities in water.
Yeah.
Okay. If we took, let's take the one we discussed, trihalomethanes. There's something that's established by the EPA that's called the MCL, maximum contaminant level. It's the saying, all of you people who are selling water to the public, you have to have the level less than this MCL. For trihalomethanes, it happens to be 80 parts per billion.
Wow.
But they added another column in the last decade. It's called the maximum contaminant level goal. And for trihalomethanes and many of the other things, it is 0. Okay? There is no safe level. So even at 80, it's going to affect you in your life. Maybe only a third of the people will get cancer or a 30th of the people, but it's going to have some toll on human physiology.
But if deuterium is natural and we came from the ocean and there's deuterium in the ocean, then aren't we equipped with the means of coping with small?
That is a phenomenal, that's a 10.
Of a question? That's a 10?
Yeah. I mean,
Wow.
I'm just, you just rated 10. There aren't many 10s that I give out, but that's a 10.
That's why they pay me the moderate
Yes.
bucks.
What's amazing is that the answer to your question is that life struggled with deuterium. We don't know what was really in the ocean. We do know that when there's an ice age, because deuterium water freezes at a higher temperature, it's the first to freeze and be taken out of the drinking water availability, right? So people maybe 50,000 years ago may not have had very much deuterium.
Interesting. So they might have had less.
I don't think anybody, I've never read
Yeah.
or saw that anybody estimated. This is complicated stuff. But 11,900 years ago, the ice age melted and dropped the deuterium into the world's water, everything, fresh water, seawater, everything. Now we're at 6 drops. And we're going to change what we say the 6 drops are. We're going to call it 150 parts per million because that's what the units are everyone uses.
Yeah.
And you just took a drink of water that's not 150, but 5.
This is the first time I'm ever tasting deuterium depleted water.
Yeah. And this is the lowest in the world. Okay.
It is delicious, Robert.
It is happens to be delicious because there's nothing in it. When you deplete the deuterium atoms, okay, you are taking out everything. There's not a thing in this water.
Okay, so wait. So then you've presented the problem very eloquently.
And that's why.
Are you going to put one of those in my water?
I am, but I'm going to put one in mine first. This might. So
cool. How do you prevent the glass from breaking? How does this technology work?
It's you have to kind of get used to it, but it's not a big deal. People have done this for 125 years. I think we could figure it.
All right, top me up.
Okay, I'm not even going to put a full one in because it's pretty strong stuff.
Whoa.
Here, drink the rest just to
taste this.
No, yeah, but don't tip it because both ends are broken.
Okay,
just bring it up and just see what it's like. It's going to be a drink of the ocean.
Woo! That is, I mean,
a lot better than the ocean.
It's oddly refreshing.
Venice,
yeah, it tastes good though. I mean, it's salty, but it's like, I like it.
So, this, I can't tell you how this warms my foundational nutrient need because this is, I know in my heart, my body, and every cell how important it depended in evolution with the periodic table. That's it. And I get it like this, like mackerel.
It's so good. So where on the hierarchy of things that people ought to be concerned about today should this fall, in your view? Like
very special people. And it's going to change and it will probably become a fad. Okay. Like bulletproof coffee it will probably go maybe in 5 years in that direction, but only after its price can be controlled. So the price, first of all, there is none made in the United States or North America. All of it's made in either Russia, Hungary, or Romania.
And you're talking about deuterium depleted water.
Deuterium depleted. Yeah. Those are the only facilities. There's only enough made in the world for less than 40,000 people.
Wow.
40,000. That wouldn't even do the first 3 blocks.
That's like Venice.
Of the island of yeah. Yeah, we can supply Venice.
That's hilarious. So then what do people do? I mean, so you've presented.
Well, that's expensive.
It's expensive, yeah.
It's expensive, and if you're interested, I'll tell you exactly what a real depletion requires. So when you go to the goal is, look, I want everybody to realize this is not like buying a bottle of noni juice, which has exotic, neat little phytochemicals in it and all that stuff. It's not glamorous. It's just got no deuterium. It's great. It doesn't have any impurities in it. But this is only like a workhorse to drain it from your body. That's its only purpose.
Because the solution to pollution is dilution, right? You've got
second 10.
Second 10. Man, I'm loving this. So you're drinking deuterium depleted water, and so you're basically you're because we are about 80% water.
Yeah.
You're depleted. You're diluting the amount of deuterium in your body.
Correct. So I mean, if you just if you had this bottle filled with tap water and we put in a bottle of deuterium depleted water and spilled some of it out, now the whole thing would be lower, right? And you just keep doing that. Now, how strict do you have to be? And that's the challenging part and why it's not for everybody. And we really want to end up, what does it do to you ultimately? That's like profound. That it's shocking what its capabilities are. And they're just really like learning it. But you have to, let's say, practically speaking, you have to drink 90% of all the water you consume as drinking, beverages, and food preparation as some degree of deuterium depletion. Now, I told you, you normally don't drink this straight. You don't need to. In behalf, because it's unnecessary to deplete very quickly. If you just drank this, you would deplete very quickly. By the end of the week, you would be as low as you'd want to go.
If I just drank this,
If
right?
you drank this, right. But the point is, if you just drank this one, it would be unnecessarily expensive. And by diluting it, you still ease the body into this dramatic change.
Yeah.
Remember, this water is affecting the mitochondria in your body. I mean, the mitochondria are in a way everything. Health science is moving rapidly from my day of free radicals and antioxidants to metabolism and mitochondria. Okay? That's the world, because mitochondria are more fundamental. They've realized that the energy is everything, that the native intelligence of the body is so good that all it says is, give me the energy and I'll figure out everything. I'll figure out how to get rid of this virus. I'll figure out how to make protein folding perfect. I'll figure this out. That the body is incredibly, incredibly genius. But it needs to have energy whenever it wants it. So with mitochondria, this ATP energy everybody kind of knows about, adenosine triphosphate, this energy that's a chemical made in the mitochondria. And there are about, let's say, depending upon where the cells are, the mitochondria are in, there's 1,000 to 10,000 mitochondria per cell.
There's a lot, yeah.
Okay, there's a cell. But the little mechanisms that actually make the ATP, unbelievably, they're for each of the 1,000 to 10,000 mitochondria, there's about 350,000 of those in every mitochondria.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, this thing is
a lot of moving parts.
This thing is the busiest thing in your body.
Yeah.
Okay, because energy is everything. And just from you drinking this, you will probably, I don't know, I'm just making this up, but you're going to save tens of thousands of mitochondria.
Wow.
Before they die.
That's amazing.
So mitochondria basically generally increase until a human is 25 years old.
Wow. And
then it's straight line to death. They just decline. There's no way to stop the decline. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, the health of our mitochondria is everything.
The health of the mitochondria is everything, and the only way I know to change the slope of the decline is to get rid of one of the things that's killing off the mitochondria, and that's the proton and the neutron together, which come from water with deuterium.
I love it. There's exercise too. Exercise is good for your mitochondria.
Oh, no, wait. No. I mean this one effect that's happening. It's happening like the clicking of a clock. Exercise, all the things that you and I know, all the forms of exercise, the correct form of breathing, intermittent fasting, photonic input. All this is very important, and it does help the mitochondria, but from a different direction.
Yeah.
The deuterium that's in water is literally like target practicing on mitochondria. It focuses.
There's this shocking statistic that some crazy percentage of people don't even drink water on a daily basis. And I think that one of the potential explanations as to how those people aren't just dropping dead is that we get water from the food that we eat. Are you aware of any foods? Is it possible to consume deuterium depleted water in food? Like, is there any biotransformation process that occurs?
Well,
I feel like I heard you at one point talking about like meat, like certain kinds of meat can contain low levels of deuterium or something.
The
like
lowest food in deuterium is lard. Okay.
Is lard?
Yes. Not one of my favorite foods.
No.
And refried beans and lard, that might not big on my. on my menu.
No, but the water in food is not.
No, the water in food comes from the irrigation of the soil that the plant grew in.
So it's all the same. Still the 6
it's
drops.
It's going to be all the
per liter.
same. But plants, because of your question, through evolution, didn't life figure some of this stuff out and get rid of it? Yes. Not only did animals, but plants get rid of plant juices have less deuterium than plant root or root vegetable.
Interesting. Okay.
And it was to protect the chloroplasts are the mitochondria in a plant. And those are in the leaves and they're protected. The Krebs cycle in our mitochondria, the latest research says, hey, what's the Krebs cycle do? Well, it prepares these, oxidative phosphorylation and gets protons going and electrons, blah, blah, blah. A lot of things that I'm sure your audience isn't that interested in. But the Krebs cycle now has one added feature. It shuttles away deuterium before it gets to the electron transport chain. Through evolution, figured this out. Where can I get rid of this stuff? So in the mitochondria, there is something that is probably the buzzword of mitochondria lately, and it's called the Adp Atp Synthase Nanomotor. Okay, ADP. Blah, 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 those are the ATP mechanism. But in the mechanism, I think you'll find this interesting. There is something called, you heard me say nanomotor.
Yeah.
Nanomotor? What the heck is a nanomotor in mitochondria?
That sounds like some Elon Musk shit.
Yes, it does sound like it. But in every mitochondria electron transport chain, there is a submicroscopic grouping, precise grouping of amino acid molecules that spins at 9,000 RPM.
Wow.
Okay. And I thought somebody was like leading me on the first time I heard this, like, oh, let's play a joke on Slovak, right? Yeah, the nanomotor spins at 9,000 RPM and it indexes protons that are from the hydrogen that's in water.
Biology is so amazing.
Crazy.
It's just so beautiful.
But I said it takes the protons from water. But what if that water molecule doesn't just have a proton, but it has a proton and a neutron in the hydrogen?
What happens?
The same thing that would happen if you threw a $50 in a Porsche turbo.
Man.
You already know, don't you?
Yeah,
It explodes.
Yeah, not good things.
And that's what happens.
Wow.
And it takes out your mitochondria. I can't remember. It's in a massive amount every second. They're just getting from the deuterium in the water. So you replace the deuterium and get the endogenous deuterium in your body out. Now you've really toned down that destructive mechanism.
Yeah. So we don't have a lot of time left, but I like to leave my listeners with, something they could sort of take, run with, go, research for further self-education or something really actionable. What here? I mean, we've
go on drinklightwater.com.
Drinklightwater.com.
Read everything you can. There's a booklet that tells you the history of this. You can download.
Hey, if you like that video, you need to check out this one here, and I'll see you there.
When I lecture about the carnivore diet, I said, what is it? And I said, look, the focus is on animal foods. This is where the money is. This is where the nutrition is. This is where you get your nutrition. The rest of the stuff, if you tolerate decoration, variety, spice, whatever, if you enjoy it, go for it. If it messes you up, be objective about it and say, maybe I shouldn't have it. Maybe I shouldn't eat that.